For decades, they dazzled under stadium lights, smiling through freezing temperatures, pulled muscles, and long hours of unpaid rehearsals. Icons of athleticism and glamour wrapped in sequins and tradition. But on June 18th, the Dallas Cowboys Cheerleaders, perhaps the most recognized spirit squad in the world, weren't just performing at halftime, they were making history. In a groundbreaking announcement from team management, the organization confirmed that cheerleader pay will be quadrupled for the 2025-26 NFL season, a long-awaited shift after years of criticism over exploitative compensation. The Dallas Cowboys Cheerleaders have long been more than entertainment. They are brand ambassadors, marketing tools, and living symbols of American sports culture. From reality TV shows to Super Bowl cameos and international military tours, they've helped shape the image of the NFL itself. Yet behind the flawless routines and camera-ready grins lay a sobering truth. These women were being paid a fraction of what their presence generated. For years, they endured rehearsal schedules that rivaled professional athletes, maintained peak physical condition, adhered to strict image policies, and performed with unwavering enthusiasm, all for compensation that often amounted to less than minimum wage. The announcement of a pay raise isn't just about catching up to inflation or rewarding loyalty, it's a cultural milestone. It reflects a growing awareness that equity in sports must extend beyond players and coaches to include the women who've been overlooked while representing franchises on the national stage. This pay adjustment sends a clear message, not just to Dallas, but to the entire NFL. Performance, professionalism, and presence deserve fair pay, regardless of whether you carry a football or a pom-pom. As news of the raise spread, it reignited discussions about systemic inequality across professional sports, particularly in roles traditionally occupied by women. But more than that, it reminded the world of a simple truth the Cowboys cheerleaders have known for years. Just because something looks effortless doesn't mean it's easy. And now, finally, their effort is being valued out loud. But the road to that long-awaited recognition wasn't paved with glitter or cheers. It was filled with silence, frustration, and years of systemic neglect. While NFL teams earned billions and players signed multi-million-dollar contracts, the women dancing on the sidelines were expected to accept low wages as the honor of being part of the brand. For the Dallas Cowboys Cheerleaders, the most famous squad in the league, this imbalance was especially glaring. Despite their massive cultural presence, gracing magazine covers, touring military bases, starring in documentaries, their compensation lagged shockingly behind. Some cheerleaders reportedly earned less than $4,000 for an entire season, even as they were expected to maintain perfect appearances, travel on demand, and participate in media events without overtime or benefits. Former members have shared accounts of being penalized for minor weight fluctuations, paying out of pocket for personal grooming, or being told to remain silent about workplace conditions. Lawsuits in recent years, including high-profile claims in other NFL cities, revealed patterns of underpayment and control that bordered on exploitation. And yet, for a long time, these women kept showing up, smiling, dancing, not because they were naive, but because they were passionate. They believed in the magic they created. But belief doesn't pay the bills. The conflict came to a head as the public began to shift its perspective. Social movements advocating for workplace equity, fueled by the momentum of the hashtag #MeToo and the push for pay transparency, collided with the spectacle of the NFL's gendered labor divide. Fans started asking hard questions. Why are cheerleaders still being paid like part-time interns? Why are they treated as replaceable adornments rather than vital cultural assets? Why does the league invest so heavily in image, but not in those who help build it? The Cowboys, facing mounting media scrutiny, were pushed to confront the disconnect. Internally, sources say cheerleaders had long voiced concerns, often met with vague reassurances or deflections. But the culture was changing. With public opinion shifting and younger audiences demanding accountability, silence was no longer sustainable. The decision to raise salaries didn't just happen. It was forced by a groundswell of voices too loud to ignore. While the Cowboys are the first to make such a bold move, the underlying question remains. Will the rest of the league follow, or continue hiding behind outdated contracts and PR platitudes? Because while the pay raise marks progress, it also highlights just how deep the injustice had run. This wasn't just a financial issue, it was a moral one. And as the dust settled, what remained was not just a paycheck, but a clear, undeniable truth. Respect can no longer be optional. Then, the moment transformed from internal reform to national conversation. When the official announcement went live, the reaction wasn't just celebratory, it was seismic. Former cheerleaders took to social media to share bittersweet memories of being underpaid despite working as full-time brand representatives. Their voices, once confined to closed-door frustrations or anonymous lawsuits, now echoed across timelines, podcasts, and panels. One viral post read, "We danced through pain, tears, and low pay. Today, we dance for justice." Within hours, sports analysts, activists, and entertainment reporters joined the dialogue, elevating the cheerleaders' story from a footnote to a feature headline. Mainstream networks debated the broader implications of the raise, asking whether the rest of the NFL would now feel pressured to match or risk public backlash. And the ripple effect wasn't limited to football. Cheerleaders from the NBA, NHL, and even college sports began using the Dallas announcement as leverage in their own push for equity. Internally, the Dallas Cowboys franchise scrambled to balance credit with accountability. team owners released a carefully crafted statement citing a renewed commitment to excellence and fairness, while insiders suggested the decision came after months of strategic damage control following years of criticism. Behind the scenes, cheerleading program directors worked with legal teams to rewrite contracts, implement formal HR procedures, and introduce mandatory mental health resources, acknowledging for the first time that physical performance wasn't the only pressure these women faced. But perhaps the most striking shift occurred within the culture of the team itself. Cheerleaders, once treated as background glamour, now found their opinions valued in strategic meetings and community outreach initiatives. Their names were suddenly listed in team newsletters, their birthdays celebrated on the official Cowboys Instagram. And while these gestures might seem small, to the women who had spent years being visible but voiceless, they felt revolutionary. One cheerleader was quoted saying, "For the first time, I feel like more than a costume. I feel like a teammate." And in a sport built on teamwork, that acknowledgement meant everything. Meanwhile, younger girls watching from home, aspiring dancers and athletes, now had new role models to look up to, not just for their performances, but for their courage. The new contracts didn't just change paychecks, they changed perceptions. The cheerleader was no longer just a symbol of sparkle, but a symbol of strength. And as stadiums prepared for kickoff in the fall of 2025, one thing was certain. When the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders took the field, they'd no longer be smiling through injustice. They'd be dancing in the light of a hard-earned triumph. Ultimately, the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders' pay raise didn't just rewrite contracts, it rewrote a legacy. As the 2025-26 season drew closer, the women who once quietly accepted thankless roles were now celebrated as pioneers in a larger reckoning within sports culture. Their journey, from ornamental sideshow to empowered professionals, wasn't just symbolic, it was structural, and the ripples were undeniable. Other NFL teams began facing mounting pressure from both fans and current cheerleaders to match Dallas's historic move. Social media campaigns like #PayYourCheerleaders and #MoreThanMascots gained momentum, spotlighting long-ignored stories of inequality across various franchises. But beyond the headlines, something more lasting was taking root. Training camps now included mental health briefings. Uniform policies were reevaluated to prioritize comfort over male gaze. Cheerleaders were finally being offered access to the same injury treatment resources as athletes on the field. The world had begun to see what they were, elite performers whose excellence deserved compensation and care, not just applause. For many in the squad, the race was more than a financial win, it was emotional closure. It validated years of effort, sacrifice, and struggle. One veteran member reflected in an interview, "I stayed through the exhaustion, the criticism, the invisibility, because I believed the role could be more. And now it finally is." That shift was echoed in countless locker rooms, living rooms, and dance studios across America. Young girls who once dreamed of joining the squad no longer had to choose between their passion and financial dignity. Parents who once questioned the viability of cheerleading as a career now saw proof that excellence could be respected and rewarded. But perhaps most powerfully, the women themselves walked taller, not just in boots and sequins, but in boardrooms and interviews, knowing they had helped change an industry from within. As the Cowboys opened their new season, the cheers weren't just for touchdowns, they were for the women on the sidelines who had stood still for far too long and finally moved the game forward. In a world where equity is often promised but rarely delivered, the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders danced their way into history, not as decoration, but as disruption. And in doing so, they reminded us that real progress often starts not with a revolution, but with a raise. Their story will live far beyond the season, inspiring future generations to ask for more, to expect fairness, and to understand that glamour should never come at the cost of dignity. It was more than a win for cheerleaders, it was a wake-up call for an entire league. It also sparked broader conversations about compensation in all gendered performance roles. From entertainment to fashion to hospitality, whether on the field or off, the message was clear. Visibility without value is no longer acceptable. The cheerleaders' raise redefined worth, and it did so with power, grace, and undeniable permanence.